everybody, happy Sunday. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, you are having an amazing weekend. Don't worry, this is not the chicken and garden update, although you should totally go and watch that if you haven't already. This is, in fact, the Sunday musing. I'm just here in my garden with my dogs wandering around because what I want to talk to you about today is about sustainable living and about sustainable agriculture and about all of the housing developments that we are seeing popping up around the world. Many of them super, super expensive, certainly here in the Portland area in Oregon. Most of the new buildings that are being made are either $5+ million homes that are definitely too expensive for first-time buyers, or they're massive multifamily units that leasing companies are buying and are then going to lease out to people at exorbitant rates. And in both cases, we're seeing a lot of housing developments get approval, both here in the United States. I know the same thing is happening in the UK. I was over there earlier this year visiting my mum, where gardens are considered luxury items and green spaces are considered luxury options. Here in the United States, of course, HOAs, homeowners associations, are big business. And I say that and I mean it. You know, HOAs exist to make bucket loads of money for some management company, while also being very prescriptive about what people who buy homes in HOA areas can do. And that very often includes restrictions on what you can do with your land, and can sometimes be, you cannot put this plant here, or you cannot plant in your garden, or you have to let a person come and cut your front lawn, or you have to pay for it if you don't do it yourself. And all of these prescriptive things mean that people are put off gardening and they are put off growing their own food. Obviously, somebody just went up the hill with a very loud exhaust. I apologize. Obviously, growing your own food is not only a great way of learning where your food comes from and allows you to make sure that your food is healthy and local and fresh, but gardening is also good for the soul, right? You can get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And of course, it's not everybody's thing, but green spaces in general are considered to be good. You know, you get outside, get some fresh air, whether that is just to sit in a chair and watch the world go by, or whether that is to engage in some sports, or, like I say, engage in some gardening, whether that is growing food or whether that's just growing plants that you enjoy looking at. We're so focused on making new fancy houses with new fancy features and gyms and swimming pools that we're forgetting the green spaces. And earlier this week, I reached out on Mastodon to those of you who follow us on Mastodon and said, hey, does anybody know of any green developments where it's a new housing development and there is green space available for people to use, whether that is at the front of their house, somewhere they can grow things that they want to grow, or whether that is a communal garden. And I think I had 1 or 2 responses. Somebody sent me something in Europe that was an older development, and one of you reached out and said, well, you know, allotments in the UK, which are specific areas where you can rent a plot of land to grow vegetables and plants and whatever you want to grow there. A lot of allotments in the UK now have 10+ year wait lists for people to get on. So there is demand for it. And with all of these new fancy housing developments where they're trying to get as many people, as many houses in as possible in a short space. Sorry, that was a bug right in my eye. I do apologize. trying to squeeze in as many houses as possible in a small space, green spaces are being ignored. Now, I've seen over here in the United States, there are some really amazing novel projects. I've seen some, I think, in New York. I believe there was one in downtown Detroit as well, where the idea was you took an existing big high-rise multi-family dwelling and you put a garden on the roof, a green space on the roof, and you made it so that people could go up there. Maybe they could play with their dogs, maybe they could grow things. And you made it a shared space that no one person had control over what happened. And I love that as an idea. I love coming out here first thing in the morning and seeing my garden grow. And I feel very, very privileged. I am very, very privileged to have a third of an acre. And my garden behind me is this space that I use is probably just maybe, what do you think? Maybe a sixth of that total land area that I own. And it's keeping me and my partner in food over the summer. We haven't had to go to the supermarket much. It's improved my mental health. And I want to know why we're not allowing houses to be built like this anymore, and why, when multifamily dwellings are being designed, when massive new housing developments of detached $500,000, pound, euro houses are being built, space for gardens are not being considered. And the way that these complexes are being developed engineers away a lot of the autonomy that people have to do their own thing, to their own house, to their own rented space. But it also means that you end up with these very cookie cutter neighborhoods where it's just grass. And let's be clear, while, nice green grass might look lovely, it's not necessarily good for the local environment either, especially if you go to places like Arizona in the US, where housing developments are still insisting on putting just grass down, which is terrible from a sustainability point of view. Those areas, they're pumping a lot of water in to try and keep the ground green and verdant, when they should be putting in native plants to allow the ground to react and behave more like it should, like it did before we came along and did stupid things. I would love to know in the comments below how you think we can make it possible for developments to be made, whether it is changing planning permission rules, whether it's changing attitudes, so that it's easier for new home residents, whether they are owners or renters, to grow their own stuff, to have a green space that they can do other things in. And I know that there are some amazing property developments coming that do that. My sister-in-law just moved from a, standalone house to a co-op, a housing co-op, in which everybody owns their home, but there's also a commitment to a communal area. And when we helped her move in, it was beautiful. We saw all the people who had all of their houses, out the front of their houses, they all have space for growing their own fruit and vegetables. The communal area had lots of fresh fruit and vegetables and wonderful, wonderful flowers growing in it, trees, shade, places to sit. If a small community can do that, why can't we do it on a wider scale? And on that note, we are done with today's video. I would love to know your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. You can drop us a polite note in the Discord chat room. You can also reach out to us on Mastodon, or if you are a Patreon supporter, you can reach out to us in the comments there. If you want more, subscribe, hit the bell and follow the links below to regularly support us with a YouTube membership or a Patreon subscription. You'll also find links to our Ko-fi, Bitcoin and Swag store, as well as that aforementioned Mastodon server. Scrolling on my right is the list of amazing charged up supporters, and shout outs go out to our V2G Patreon supporters, they are Alan Tupper, Andrew Martin, Bennett Elder, Brophy Wolf, Chris Maxwell, Cyprian Laplace, Dan Blair, Gordon C, Hay Esker, John Tramal, Carl Fox, Mark Eggleton, Peter Dillinger, Regine Fellows, Sean Tucker, Stefan Fremden, Stephen Williams, Taslet in the Gong, Paul Bricknell, Tony Moss, Carl Hodgson, Chris Asentar, Denny Hyde, Lance Schlal, Linda Irish, Mike Reeder and Paul Nelson. And finally, big thanks to our off-grid supporters. They are Jim Burness, Robert Flannery, Aaron Hahn, Ellery Hensley, Rory Litwin, JP Fagerback, Dave Kitchen, Andrew Glenn, Anonymous Freak, Chris and Michael Johnson, Claywit, CPU Freak 101, Eric Knack, Joe Bresney, John Henderson, Laura Reynolds, Marcel Ward, Matthew Drobnak, Nigel S, Reggie Watts, Will Graylin, and of course, Ian. Don't forget that we make content every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday on our main channel. And then on a Sunday, come over here to Transport Evolved Take 2 for this, our Sunday musing, as well as our chicken and garden updates, which if you haven't already watched it, you should totally go and do. Thanks for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you are doing. I hope the weather is pleasant and not too hot. And until next time, keep evolving.